You're watching the Juice Consumer Direct podcast. I'm Carson Poppenger here with Jacob Thorpe. And today we have a special guest in our studio joining us, Bastian Cowsert. Great to have you, Bastian.
Howdy.
Bastian is the general manager of home services for PX.com. He's previously chief marketing officer with DeBella and over performance marketing with American Standard Brands. And just great to have you here today with us to talk about everything that you got going on and your background and things that you're excited about now today in performance marketing.
Yeah, appreciate the invite.
That's great having you here. We've got some history with Bastian.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. We go a ways back. It's been fun for me to kind of see your journey over the last 8 to 10 years.
That's probably same. You were on the call floor and then you moved up.
Yeah.
And you're a big wig now.
Congrats. It's cool to see. Can you talk us through your path? How did you get to where you are? Most people don't get into this world by choice. It's something that just kind of happens. So what was your experience, your path into where you're at now?
Yeah, so I fell into it, right? So I was working with a company that did seminar marketing. You hear those radio ads like, hey, there's a real estate investing training come to your area, free 3-hour, learn how to wholesale or whatever. So I was working with a company that did that, and I did a bunch of sales, loved it, tons of travel, but I started getting the bug on the marketing aspect of it, like how they generated, all these people showing up to these seminars, right? Got involved with that team, and that same company had a subsidiary company that was a mortgage company. And so I started doing lead gen for a mortgage company. And I had the reverse mortgage product called the HECM, the Home Equity Conversion Mortgage, right? So more of a senior-based product. And I was like, how do I generate leads? And so I was looking at maybe partnerships that make sense. And I stumbled along American Standard, right? They have a home services business. There's these things called walk-in tubs. They're $40,000. My thought, it's super expensive. Maybe financing is a problem. The HECM could help solve that. So I reached out to Eric Kozak, who's now at American Standard. I was trying to buy leads from him. Hey, maybe we can help each other out. You guys have sales that don't fund. Maybe we can help fund that. And he's like, yeah, good idea, but no, we're not going to do that. Fast forward, they needed someone on the American Standard side to help lead gen. And Eric was like, I guess I liked your pitch. So he's like, hey, you want to jump on? So started there, American Standard, very low affiliate manager, managing publishers. Thankfully had a really great mentorship there, lots of opportunity, and then kind of rose through the ranks. And then I got recruited to go over to DeBella. So yeah, and I'm at PX on the other side of the table, so to speak, right? So I was primarily brand focused, and now I'm on, having those same conversations, just working with a bunch of different companies, helping them solve this lead generation, customer acquisition problem. So.
Yeah, we actually had a chance to first meet, I think, in 2019. I went up to your office up in Portland, I think, and we got together and it was
a long time ago.
Yeah. When was this?
2019.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Where was that?
Yeah, it was in downtown Portland. Before COVID. So
yeah, Hondo and I went up there.
Oh, okay.
Had a meeting. Yeah, Hondo and I went up there and had a meeting with
This is American. This is American Standard.
Chad.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Chad Kreutz.
Yeah.
And so, flashback, right? But yeah, great to see your progression and all that you've done in your career so far, and where everything that's led you today to being over home services with PX, and what a great company they are, and they've got a tremendous history and great team over there, and generating a lot of lead volume. Customer acquisition is so critical to so many companies and brands, and we've really seen home services explode with demand over the last few years, especially.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Where I think these companies are starting to realize that they want to grow, they want to scale, and they need to get in front of consumers, and they need to capture that attention that other companies have been figuring out how to get, and so they're trying to compete and make sure they get those services in front. So what kind of things have you seen change over the last few years with home service marketing and customer acquisition?
Yeah, I think everyone's getting just a lot smarter, right? I think it's very common when you look at home services to foil against other industries. The financial service industry is we like to say is 10 years ahead of where home services right now. But I think that's a good thing, right? Home services is catching up, right? You have data people now, and you have they realize you need infrastructure, right? You need CRMs, you need really great data people, you need to have very clean data. and then you make decisions based on data, right? And so that's kind of the biggest thing is like it's the schism between people who are just like trying to figure things out, like low budgets, like, oh, this one lead didn't work, so the whole program's garbage, versus ones that are like making investments into the infrastructure, making investments into what their structure is from a corporate standpoint, like how incentive plans are rolled out, how they manage things, how they view things, communication to their board members, all that stuff. And I think that's primarily driven by, this super large appetite in the home services space for acquisition, right? Like everyone's seen those dollar signs, right? So, economics 101, right? Like incentives, you have the right incentive, it drives action, right? So there's a lot of incentive for home service companies like, hey, let's push that EBITDA up. Like, let's push that EBITDA up. Let's show, year over year growth. And so they're looking at reasons or ways to do that. And lead generation is obviously one that's pretty scalable.
Yeah, it's interesting. You look at like the top 50 list, or you look at even like top 500, and there are a bunch of companies on there that a year ago were not buying leads.
Yeah.
It's like referral, word of mouth, field marketing. That's basically it. 2-3 years ago, that wasn't even a thing. But the scale that you can get if you can nail the digital piece is so much. It's faster. It's bigger. It can be scaled up very quickly. And now you see like the infrastructure getting in place where companies are like, all right, we're ready to go. It's funny that the fulfillment precedes the like the demand generation for a lot of these companies, but now they're in a position where they can take advantage of that and invest into that infrastructure.
Yeah, I talked recently with a company that's like 85 plus million in the window space, all referral. Like they're not door knocking, like very limited. And they're like, oh, let's turn on lead gen. It's like your world's going to blow up. Like it's going to be crazy for you, which is great. It's a great problem to have. But yeah, it's interesting how big a business can get just through referrals, word of mouth, and just some of the more like grassroots kind of efforts.
Well, like the manufacturing can be such a bottleneck if they've got that nailed. The fulfillment piece, the reviews, and home services reviews are so important.
Yeah.
If you've got those things in place, your SEO and everything else is so much easier. It's been interesting to see. I think from a compliance perspective too, some of these companies have been a little bit behind as well, and it's I think.
Well, you get those text messages all the time, right?
Yeah, exactly. You're like, how'd you get my number? I don't remember signing up for this, but that's catching up too.
Yeah.
And I think that we're seeing a much bigger focus into like the tech stack that these companies have. A lot more consolidation. It used to be kind of Frankenstack.
Yeah.
And now
I love that term, Frankenstack.
Yeah. Now there's a lot more consolidation.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, that when you mentioned that company was 85 million just referral only, so they're getting. The businesses being referred to them, but then there's a whole market of people that are out searching for those products and services, and you want to be at the forefront of the results that they're seeing and in front of all those consumers because they recognize they have a need and they're interested in shopping and talking and learning about it and looking at options, and you want to make sure that your hat's in the mix for that, right? That you don't miss out on all those consumers that are ready to purchase, but they just need to see your solution, right? So that's great that you're helping those companies transform. I've seen similar companies that do home service products that were in that $100 million range too, and just complete door knocking. That's and they're capturing those folks that they get in front of that they can present to, but they're missing out on all the people that are just like ready to buy, but they just don't know about them. And so, yeah, interesting.
It's like the devil, right? Like there's, on the top 500, right? There's $1 billion company there. It's a majority door knocking. So it's like, they do like lead generation and they have paid media and all that kind of stuff, but most of it is door knocking, which just is crazy. So some people like either they do door knocking and they absolutely love it, and they don't do lead gen, or vice versa. Like they can't even fathom the idea. Like, why would I go knock doors for a bathroom? Like that doesn't make sense. But then you have $80 million companies are doing, that's all they do. Or $1 billion company, like majority of it, that's all they do.
Well, they obviously have like really good processes around that. They have the right hiring and the right training and the right incentive program and all that kind of stuff, but it's all geared that direction. Yeah. And, I think mortgage has seen similar where you have the individual mortgage brokers that are just like selling their, friends and neighbors and stuff like that, and closing like a couple loans a month, and they're getting a very high commission rate and payout because there's no marketing really involved. They're the marketing, right? So they get sort of paid more. And then on the flip side, there's companies that are doing a tremendous amount of marketing and just sort of handing the opportunities to the loan officers to close. They're going to have like a lower commission structure and different incentive structure and more marketing dollars. More of that money's being devoted to marketing to make the phone ring, to make the opportunities come in. And so it's good. I think that there's opportunity to kind of, use multiple strategies and capture more market share. So
I looked into the door knocking for mortgage. The lawyer said no, but I'm like, that'd be interesting, right? Because you get all that data, right? You can see who carries a note. You can see what their interest rate is, right? So it's like pull a file, get a bunch of houses, and just knock for dollars for mortgage.
Here's your offer.
I mean, if somebody figures it out, I think there's a lot of opportunity there. But
Direct, I haven't even thought about that.
Yeah, hustle culture, get somebody out there.
Yeah, that's funny.
You have to have a license, so that's a downside.
Yeah, that's true. That's funny.
Only in one market, though, right? Just in one state.
Yeah, exactly. You can just have your local reps. So tell us a little bit how you ended up at PX and how it kind of fits in your background and also like into the lead generation ecosystem, because big player, great reputation. How did you end up there, and how's it been, the transition?
Yeah, so I was a PX fanboy from afar, right? When I was at American Standard, I first met PX. Like they always do a big show at LeadsCon, right? Big booth, great displays, and they bring the whole team out there, right? So they are 20 plus people, all in green shirts, PX. And so I knew of them. American Standard tried to bring them on, but they were using ping posts primarily with what PX is primarily ping posts, and just the model didn't line up with how American Standard wanted to do business at the time, which has changed. But so really, I was really excited about the potential opportunity to work with PX when it came up. But I was at a company called DeBella. They're in the home services space, and had some explosive growth with that. I was like 311 when I started, million, and I think they were like over 500 this last year. So really great opportunity, learn a lot of stuff. So I had the great pleasure of serve as their CMO for a few years. And then came the time to, most CMOs, there's a transition point, right? It's like we carry the ball as far as you can, and then you're like, okay, pass it on to somebody else, right? So I took a month off, longboarded and grilled a bunch, and PX came knocking and like, hey, maybe there's some alignment here. And so, worked with Franz and Boss on that process, the CEO and COO, the co-founders, and saw there's a lot of alignment in like how I like to do business, right? Which is very like relationship based, very transparent, very honest, and having those hard conversations when you need to, but results are like absolute key, right?
Yeah.
And so PX is very focused on delivering results, being that voice of reason and saying the things that need to be said, even if it's maybe uncomfortable sometimes, because we want to see all our clients perform, and we want to see our supply team perform. And so that means making some decisions and leveraging data, and that's the kind of stuff I like. So.
Yeah, that's exciting. And, PX has been around quite a long time and has a great team, and excited to see where they're going to take things and where you're going to take things with home services. And really, I'm sure you've got some aggressive goals and some, some good things that you want to, accomplish over the next couple of years as you take that, from where it's at to where you want it to be. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
So working with PX, now you're on the other side. You've been a buyer, you've been a seller, you've been working with publishers. What is it that sets apart, a high-performing buyer-seller relationship? What is it to you, if you could distill it down into like a formula, what is it that you think sets apart a good buyer-seller relationship?
Great question. I think there's a couple things, right? The number one is accountability, right, on both sides, right? And you have to have trust to have accountability, right? So it's accountability for the buyer side to make commitments to the seller, right? Like, we're going to treat your leads a certain way. We're going to work on a certain way. We're going to give data back to you, which, by the way, blows my mind that some like home service companies or other people who buy leads, like, don't give disposition data back. Like, absolutely blows my mind. That's still a thing. Like, how are they going to optimize for you, right? Mm-hmm. It's like good lead, bad lead. Like, no, like, you needed more information. So I think that's the, trust, accountability on both sides, and then like having very, very clear expectations on deliverables, right? It's like, who's going to do what when they're going to do it. and have have open conversations. When you have all those things put together, like you have very strong relationships, right? Because it is what it is. Like, one side messes up, the other side messes up, right? It's like, so there's gonna be instances where you come to the table and it's like, oh, we messed up. Like, how do we make this right? So you have to have that. But I think what prevents a lot of like buyers in the space establishing more relationships is because they're just hard. Like, it's hard. It's hard to, contract, go through contracting with the lead buyer or lead seller. You have negotiations for that. You have billing and finance you have to set up. You have payment terms, and then the big, the big shadow in the corner is compliance, right? It's like some legal teams have appetite for it, some don't, especially if like they're just starting lead gen. Like, maybe they don't want that liability or understand that liability. So I think it's just kind of interesting as teams like evolve their programs. Like, they're like, I only have human capacity to manage, 2 publisher accounts or 2 lead gen accounts, right? And they quickly realize that, well, either I need to have a problem or have a solution that allows me to scale to multiple partnerships, or I need to hire human capital, right? And then, then that's the financial conversation. Is like, well, how many accounts can one person actually manage, right, and operate efficiently? And then so you start just adding people. And I think right now the appetite for most companies is scale, and that's not through headcount, right? It's scale through efficiencies, right? So it's a little bit of addition by subtraction. So I think that's an opportunity where one PX can kind of like provide that scalability credit off the hand, because it's plug and play as much as possible, right? We have those agreements with those lead publishers. We have financing set to them, and it's just like one agreement with PX and then you're good to go. So I think that's kind of the biggest thing is, this like either misunderstanding of like how to manage partnerships or just the fear of the work associated with it.
Yeah. And so for our listeners that are listening, like, can you describe sort of like, there's different things you talked about, like ping post and different, environments like that.
We're getting nerdy here.
Yeah. Getting
Time
nerdy.
to geek out. Time to geek out.
Geek out a little bit. Explain maybe like how that sausage comes together, I guess, in a way, right? You mentioned that term too. So
yeah. So I think what's really cool is like, there's a bunch of different ways that you can leverage leads in the space, right? And the first one I think most people are familiar with is a direct post, which is a lead generator, right? Creates an ad on whatever platform, Facebook, TikTok, Google, it's a listicle or native or whatever, creates an ad, spends money, creates an ad. That ad drives to some conversion action. Typically it's a web form, right? That web form is filled out, and that data, which is what we call a lead, that data is sold to somebody, right? And pushed to a buyer, right? Sometimes it's exclusive, and I use the term exclusive lightly because we know as consumers, when we want quotes for projects, we typically fill a couple lead forms, right? Unbeknownst to the consumer, like sometimes like they're filling out the same lead, like 4 lead forms, but all goes to the same company, right? So you can do exclusive, which is a 1-to-1, or you can buy leads direct through a shared model, which is like you buy one of what's called a leg, and typically there's 4 legs. So, Carson, you fill a lead form, and then 4 home service companies buy that leg, right? That's a direct post. What's really interesting in this space is there's more appetite for the ping post model, which essentially it's a auction and a bidding platform. So imagine like eBay on steroids, right? It's like, hey, we have this information of this person. It's typically hatched, so you can't actually see what it is. But it's like, vertical, zip code, maybe sometimes the phone number, and we bid on like what we feel the value of that lead is, and then it's sold to the highest bidder, right? What that does is it allows you to like manage and dynamically price your leads, right? So right now, typically, if you're buying a lead from a publisher, and I'm using the term publisher and lead generator like same, right?
yeah.
But if you're buying a lead from a lead generator, they're going to tell you what the cost is. It's $50 or it's $100 or whatever. But not all leads are created equal, right? Not all leads are going to convert the same way, right? It's going to be dependent on what the lead source was. Was this a Google lead versus a Facebook versus native?
Your own company's fulfillment or process on that lead.
Geo-target.
As a buyer.
Geo-target, yeah, all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
And then you get into like the crazy like modeling, like, looking at demographics and all this stuff. Like, so not all leads are created equal, but when you're just purchasing at a fixed CPL, you lose all that potential like margin savings, and you just rely on the lead generator to optimize that for you, right? So the ping post model kind of combats that, right? It solves that problem and allows you to pay the right price for the right lead. And then again, you see how that lead is tracked through your system, right? Your Franken stack or whatever, how it like actually performs, like what's the contact rate, and like did we set an appointment? Like did that appointment result in a pitched appointment? You know, did they or did they no show or one leg? You know, or like one of the decision makers there, and then ultimately did it turn into a revenue generating action? Right. And then you take all that data, you push it up, and you say, hey, based on the success metrics, this lead that we bid at, you know, $50, it's actually worth $150. So the next lead that comes down that's like this, we'll bid at 150, and then you get that lead, et cetera, right? If you win, right? So, and then that's like the data leads, and then you have you have call leads, right? Which are either through a warm transfer that's from a data lead, you know, leveraging companies like Squeeze, right? Great companies. Or it's consumer driven, right? So consumer sees an ad, they click the call, and then that call gets sent somewhere, right? But the kind of nerdy part of the lead gen space is like, you know, there's a lot of routing, right? So an inbound call can hit like 7 to 10 different companies before it actually pushes over to like the end buyer, that's the kind of the fun part I'm seeing, you know, pulling back the curtain on this side, you know, I like to say it's like the dark side, right? Pulling back the curtain and seeing like the economics of all that and like where value is added, where it's not. But any way you want to buy a lead, I'm pretty sure you can buy a lead that way.
Yeah, that's great. I think that's such great insight, and the way you explain that, I think makes it clear for a lot of people that maybe they're curious about lead generation space, or maybe they don't see that aspect of it. And so great insight. So thanks for sharing that.
My first experience like seeing what the ecosystem is was with American Standard. So first Affiliate Summit East, right? Affiliate Summit East, you know, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, like I'm going to figure out this lead gen thing, right? And I was buying walk-in tub leads, so I'd go around like, hey, do you have walk-in tub leads? Do you have walk-in tub leads? And like I talked to one guy and he's like, oh yeah, we have. I'm like, oh great. Like what's the cost? And he like threw out some number. I'm like, okay, that's in my range. I'm like, what's your volume? I'm like, oh, well, it depends on your zip codes and all this stuff. I'm like, okay, cool. Well, like here's my card. Let's connect after the call, after the expo. No less than 5 minutes later, that guy, I saw him at a different aisle talking to another lead generator saying, hey, I have a buyer for walk-in tub leads. I don't have any. Can I get some from you? And I'm sitting there just like, are you freaking kidding me, right?
Yeah.
So this guy's going to buy leads from another guy, add margin, and then sell it to me. It's like, oh.
And then you didn't see that guy go to
that guy probably
the
was
other
another guy
and say, hey, I've got a guy who's got a guy.
So many middlemen people, that are trying to make a buck, and they're not really actually like producing. They're just inserting themselves in the middle. And I mean, those are frustrating for not only for the buyer but for the person that's selling it too, because you want to have that relationship direct, and you want to be able to like set expectations, and you want to be able to like make sure you're delivering things. And if someone's in the middle, they're just, they're not adding any value. They're only taking value, and they're creating muddy water.
Yeah, they're making it much harder to like make any ground with the end buyer or the seller. Because in the middle, there's someone who's kind of trying to manage things to their own benefit. It can get kind of messy.
Yeah, and if you're that producer that's actually producing the lead and going through one of those middle people, you're at huge risk of like not getting paid, because the end buyer might end up paying, and then the person in the middle is collecting that, and then they just, I'm struggling, I don't have enough sorry, I can't pay you on these or whatever, try to short you or whatever, and it's just like,
and that's where the aggregators come in, right? So that's the problem that aggregators solve, is like, hey, you're generating 5 walk-in tub leads or 5 solar leads a month or a week or whatever, like instead of like contacting a company that buys them, contracting with them, setting up billing terms, right? Because these people are carrying the media costs themselves, right? And I've never seen anything less than net 30, right? So if you're like just some college dude like working out of your basement, like
just hustling,
which is, at the end of the day, like a lot of these lead generation companies, like when you give them budget, there's some college age person spending money, right? It's like some dude or gal, like first job or whatever, or maybe they have a great media team. I don't want to disparage those guys, but someone's making decisions on how to spend money, like what the ad looks like, et cetera. But even on the supply side, like now they have to, on their side, they have to like work with those companies and all this stuff. And so it's just so much friction. And so that's where like, hey, work with a lead aggregator. I sell to these guys, guaranteed payouts. And typically like that's how they solve some of the
bring transparency,
all
that too. Yeah. Reporting.
And then the scale gets kind of wrapped up into one big scale because it's hard to go to an American Standard and say, hey, I've got 5 leads that I can sell you this week.
Yeah.
It's like not even a drop in the bucket, you know?
Yeah. When your monthly budget is like multiple commas, like 5 leads is nothing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You know? So
Exactly.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, so you have LeadsCon coming up. Any plans for LeadsCon? But I mean, we're actually going to be co-sponsoring the Top Golf Party event.
I'm a little nervous, to be honest.
About the golf part?
The golf part, yeah.
Oh, no. It's like so low
you guys,
key.
your guys talk your golf game up. I'm like, oh, man, I should
I
start
don't know
hitting
who's
balls.
talked our golf games up, but
It's super casual. It's just hitting balls and talking to people.
Yeah.
Really, that's all that is. And so we'll.
I end up
something
talking.
serious.
I end up talking so much that I hardly get.
I never even get to hit any golf balls
Oh,
really
there you
because
go.
we're just chatting the whole time.
Last year there was some guy who was left-handed who had flipped over a right-handed club and was trying to hit with it.
The backside of it?
And I'm like, he didn't even know how to like hold the club.
Oh, gotcha.
And so I gave him a little lesson. I'm like, hey, first off, there's left-handed clubs. And like here you go. And then he caught the bug, I think.
there's no shame there.
He's now a member of a country club.
You should get the referral fee for that.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I need to call him. Should have got his. I don't think I got his card.
Yeah, no, excited about LeadsCon and our event. Yeah, I think it'd be great. Yeah.
Do you have any goals or objectives when you're out there? Things that you want to accomplish? Like, what are some of your, looking 30 days out now to attending LeadsCon? What are some things that you say like this will make the event a great event? Like, what are your objectives?
Yeah, I mean, sitting in my seat right now, like number one is like what we can do to continue to grow PX, right? On the supply side, so working with more lead generators, right? Get them in the ecosystem. And then on the client side, like helping people adopt the PX kind of like mentality a little bit more of like, scalability, account ownership, accountability through metrics, like all this kind of stuff, like that would be successful for us. But what I personally like from LeadsCon is just the connections we make with people, right? So like those fun conversations at the chandelier bar, like I used to like run it like 2 a.m., 3 a.m., but now it's like 11 and I'm done, right? But just like building connections with the team, with the lead generation team, we're all people, right? We all put our pants like one leg on at a time, right? And we're all trying to figure out this whole thing. And so I think it's really interesting talking to like professionals who tested things and tried things. And so you kind of hear kind of what's going on, what's working, what's not working. But what about you guys? How do you guys do that?
Similar. It's just mostly, it's an opportunity to see a lot of the people that we work with on a regular basis and an opportunity to meet others that maybe we don't know yet or haven't had a chance to interact with. And so everyone comes together in one place and, it's really about the connections for us too. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Ian puts on a good show.
Yeah. Yeah. They have a good show, good speakers. And you've spoken before at LeadsCon. Are you any plans this time for you to speak at this one?
Yeah. I have a panel right now. So I think it's the second day. Yeah.
Great. What do you know the topic specifically that you're going to be talking about or?
Ian's going to kill me. He's like, this guy. No. Yes, no, I have a topic. So I'm actually talking with John Glazer over at Kohler. And I think we're talking about like AI. I could be wrong though, but so don't quote me on that.
Yeah, John's been on those before. I've seen John speak. He's great. Yeah, it'd be great to connect up with him. I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'll have to attend that one and watch you guys.
Yeah,
What's the over-under on AI panels this year? I feel like the last 3 years it's been.
I think
there's so much
it's pretty
moving
heavy.
so fast.
I think it's pretty heavy. Yeah,
I think so too.
That's a big question everyone's trying to answer.
I know.
It's like
seriously, it's everywhere.
Even just internal stuff, right? Like how do we leverage AI inside our companies? Like what do we allow it to do or not allow it to do, right? Is it paid accounts? Is it not paid accounts? Is it a corporate account or not? Like heaven forbid it's like someone uploads your financials to, ChatGPT or Claude, like, ugh.
Yeah.
So,
exactly.
Yeah,
or your personal medical questions onto your corporate account.
Yeah.
Needs to be some training there.
My wife just did our taxes. I'm like, she uses chat. I'm like, wait, what did you put in chat?
That's funny. Brett, our CTO, built this sick tool that we've been using internally, and it is like integrated with our Google Workspace. And you can basically ask it any question about any interaction you've had on our workspace, and it can pull performance data from 2023. It can pull revenue growth over however long you want it to be. It can say, hey, I can't find this guy's phone number. Can you find it for me? And it'll go through all of your emails. And like, I mean, some of the stuff that it's been able to do.
That's awesome.
Is just
You know how like Outlook search or like, the mail search tools are like so basic where you
This
put
is garbage.
They're
just
terrible.
garbage.
Yeah.
Like you put something in there, it gives you like 30,000 emails and you don't know which one actually has information. But yeah, you could say stuff like that. Like I talked to Bastian about this, and this at some point. Can you find an email about it? And then it pulls it up. But yeah, it's OpenClaw is the technology. Mm-hmm. And so it's like OpenClaw installed like on within our sort of like guardrails and ecosystem so that like it can't, expose anything out publicly, but like it searches like all of our email and docs and sheets and all that kind of stuff. It pulls up like we have sheets that have financial reporting daily and stuff like that, and it'll send out a summary every morning and say, here's a summary of like the updates from yesterday.
Oh, cool.
And like really cool stuff that it's able to do.
I have it set up to send me every Monday. It sends me all of my open tasks from the week prior that like I need to accomplish and like the due dates for them. Like it's super helpful. I can see how it can be so empowering and like just like you were talking about
helping be organized,
better processes, less like more people can do more when you've got good systems in place.
Yeah,
and like I can totally see that my ability to be way more efficient with my time and prioritize what I'm working on. It's been helped a ton by that.
Yeah, I can see where it's really we don't even fully know yet like how to use it properly to really get the maximum benefit. But I always think about like people that maybe like operated in business like back in like the 80s or whatever or 70s. It's like, hey, I'm going to send you an agreement. Okay, you're going to get that in the mail in about a week. Take a look at it.
Yeah,
you're going to have to mail it to
your red lines.
You're going to mail it to your attorney.
Actual red lines.
Respect that. Yeah, and then maybe like 6 months from now, we can like get this agreement signed or whatever, after
lost in the mail.
Yeah, lost in the mail or intercompany mail. I know that was the thing with big companies too, like intercompany mail, where it's like you get mail from, like Jacob could send me mail through the company or whatever, like just weird stuff like that. Yeah, now it's just like everything moves so fast. How AI is going to change that even more is like kind of crazy to think about, like how fast things are going to be able to get.
Yeah, but I think by adopting it and being well versed, you're ahead of the curve.
Oh yeah,
like just kind of being on the cutting edge of it. It's exciting. Let's see. We've got with that in mind, what do you think is going to change in the next 12 to 24 months with everything that we talked about, all of the advancements, all of the the real-time bidding and routing and how people are working smarter in the home services space specifically? What changes or adjustments do you think are coming down the line in the next 6 months, year, 2 years?
Yeah, the question I always get is what's the CPLs, like what's going to happen to CPLs, right, from a client side? And I think they're going to go up, right? Mm-hmm. I think CPLs are going to go up, and for a good reason, right? And the reason why CPLs are going to go up is because now you can pay the right price for the right lead, right? So you're going to want to invest more into the things that are converting and less into the things that aren't, right? So it's like this idea of like, I think there's going to be less appetite for companies buying just like a ton of volume of leads, right? And getting some that work, some that don't, and just like trying to like, hit their revenue goals just by flooding the system, right? Like we call that like lead stuffing, right? When you buy leads from an aggregator, right? Like you buy 100 leads, 10 are really great, right? SEM leads that they may even do internally, right? They have their own and operated team that they drive that paid media, and they convert great, and they're going to charge, high dollar amount, or maybe they even take, or like they're worth a high dollar amount, but they take no margin, or sometimes they lose money. And then what they do is hit your lead goals because you're like, hey, I want 100 leads, I don't want 10. So they're gonna stuff all this crap, right? Like $5 leads, $10 leads, etc. Because when you look at the aggregate and the macro, the economics make sense, right? So I think there's gonna be less and less of that because companies are recognizing there's a lot of operational friction that comes with volume, right? If you're getting, 100 leads an hour versus 10,000 leads an hour, right? That's a big difference, right? So it's like, how do you manage that? And I think the appetite for just the mass scale through just like throwing money at things is going down, right? Which invariably what happens to your CPL is your CPL goes up, right?
But it also forces the publishers and the generators to improve their product, to put better product into the market, which will help everybody in the long run, hopefully.
Yeah, and you have like data pen tools that do some of that stuff, and then there's some of the AI tools that we're talking about right now, like also like help warm leads up and help qualify things too. But I think there'll always be a market for someone who can handle volume at scale and maybe take some of that lower intent stuff. But I think those companies are probably few and far between that can handle that full volume. So
yeah, I think that's great insight. I think that's. It's interesting because those have been problems that have been existing for quite a while, and to see technologies and tools that are going to come into play to like help solve that issue is great. So as far as when you're looking at your ideal client, like onboarding a client, what are some things that you're looking for to accomplish when you have a new relationship that comes in, working with PX? What's your onboarding process look like?
Yeah, onboarding process. Well, I mean, if they get to the stage where like we decide, hey, like it makes sense for us to do business, right? Like they are a certain size, they have a certain appetite for volume, they're okay with like the PX model, right, which is dynamic pricing based on ping post, utilizing programmatic bidding and AI, et cetera. If they have appetite for that, let's move forward. And they have a great call center or work with a call center partner like Squeeze, right? Because it's really difficult, in the customer acquisition space, sending leads to a company that they can't work things, right? Like Ethel, calling, leads between lunch breaks, et cetera. Like that just doesn't work anymore, right? So like they have to have some technology stack to be able to support that. Dispositions data has been coming back either real time or daily, right? That's where we see more success. But once we align like what the goals, expectations are, accountability metrics, all the kind of stuff I've talked about previously. We have dedicated account managers that manage accounts that are vertical specific because, like not every vertical is the same, right? Roofing is different than fencing and fencing is different than patios, et cetera. In the home services space, even on, education, finance, mortgage, all that stuff, right? And so you work with someone that like understands that ecosystem, who speaks that lexicon. Right. Because I think the worst thing working with a partner is like, hey, we're excited for this partnership. And they're like, okay, explain to me your business. It's like, no, like you have to understand like how I operate. You have to understand like how I look at leads, how I look at revenue, what's a different type of product I sell. HVAC is not just service, it's replacement, right? And then there's also like warranty work or service contracts. Like there's nuances in everything. And so working with a partner that has someone dedicated to that just speeds up that learning process because we've already paid the tuition, right? Our CSMs, our customers, client success managers, they've already paid the tuition to know what the industry is doing in that specific vertical. And then we just go. So integrations and go, which is the fun part, right? The IT part.
Exactly.
We have some of that. We experienced that as well with Squeeze where, the clients that we're working with in mortgage, we understand like the different, opportunity buckets, and we understand like the different nuances of, what would make someone a good target for a refinance or for a, home equity or for, just in the money, we call it, or money type leads that are, in this market, especially with high rates, you have to be really creative and aggressive with who you're actually spending your time outreaching. But
sometimes you have to drum up demand by understanding like the characteristics of the leads.
Right.
But when you can come into a partnership with that, like as an SME, then that trust and with that that data-driven insights, something switches in the partnership. Like, there's like this click where it's like, oh, we're on the same team here.
Yeah.
Like and you can speak the same language. But I've had that too. When you get on a call and you ask them about their lead volumes and their lead sources, and hey, do you have tokens on this? Do you have trusted form? And they're like, I actually don't know. Or well, we do a DNC scrub on this, but we don't want you to do a DNC scrub on this. I'm like, yes, you do. We don't want you to do a litigator scrub. Yes, you do.
Yeah.
You can kind of start to these little alarm bells. Are going off in your head, and you're like, okay, might not be a great fit here.
Whenever I hear something like that, I always say, like, interesting. Can you help me understand more about that?
Why? Well, they opted in. I'm like, yeah, but I know they're a litigator. But they might need a kit. They might need a window. They might need a roof. They might need a kitchen. I don't know.
Yeah, let's sell
They're
them.
like, no, I want you to call them.
Yeah, I'm like, probably not. So.
And it gives, like, to your point, like, maybe they're, on the finance part, because you guys are very well versed in that. Maybe they're not doing something that it's a potential opportunity for them.
Yeah.
It's like, during the discovery process, you're like, hey, are you doing this strategy? And like,
Thought about this.
I've never thought about that. And like, oh no, like, you're burning dollars if you're not doing this. And they're like, oh, okay. And they do it and they see success and like this, like, oh yeah, that's great. Those quick wins are awesome.
Yeah.
I love those client calls when I'm talking to someone like, hey, it's going to be a great fit. And they're saying all this stuff. I'm like, oh, this is like low hanging fruit. Like, we're going to blow out your model. Like, you're going to have to hire a ton more people. Like, it's going to be cool. It's going to be great growth. But like, it's like, oh, this is like, it's just like not easy, right? But it's like, there's a book I read called Musashi. It's about like the Japanese swordsman, and he said, when you know the path, when you know the way you see the path in all things, right? So it's like when you know like how to operate in a certain way, like you can find different ways to navigate, right? If you have the destination in mind, like, okay, well, here are some obstacles you have to overcome to get that. But as SME, you can do that for partners.
Yeah, it's like
great.
It's like, you talked about how like I've been a squeeze for a long time, and I think there's a part of that time, like I was kind of faking it, like the confidence, just trying to figure it out, and but then the competence I think precedes the confidence.
Yeah,
and I think once you're competent, you can really lean in and you can see the path, and you're like, oh, this is what we need to do. This is what we need to do. This is what we're not doing. This is what you haven't considered.
So if you talked to him like 8 years ago, it was all BS, right?
but it was earnest. But it was earnest. We were doing the best we could. You just try to like. Sometimes you get a little bit of like imposter syndrome. You're like, I'm doing the best I can, but through that you learn a lot, and you learn a lot from the things you do well, and you learn even more from the stuff that you don't quite nail. I can think of 4 or 5 things that I did wrong, and they have stuck with me, and the 50 things I did right, I can hardly remember. Like it's just kind of how it goes. But those are the things that teach you, and you can grow a lot. Yeah,
I have a little PTSD. So before I was in the lead generation space, I worked for a like outdoor gear manufacturer, and I was designing what the UPC barcode and the product packaging was, and I ordered all this like nice labels, like 100,000 labels from China, right? Of like with this cool design, and we get them in. I'm looking at the box, and I'm just like admiring my work.
You're so excited.
I'm so awesome. I'm like the coolest dude ever.
They're gonna love this.
They're gonna love this, and there's a little fine print that says like made in whatever. And instead of saying product made in China, it said prod cut made in China. I misspelled it. I didn't catch it. And so we had this 100,000 labels of like ones we couldn't use, right? So that was like my biggest mistake. So anytime I copy edit things, people are like, you're like copy edit Nazi. I'm like, yeah, no, I learned my lesson. Like,
You don't want to send that until it's 100%.
100%.
It's so easy to miss the little things like that too.
Yeah.
Well, I have one last question for you. Since we've got you here, Bastian, and you've worked with a lot of contact centers and a lot of contact center type programs. What are some things that you think could be or are like important to like launching a successful outbound program on leads that, as far as your experience goes and companies you've worked with? I know we've worked together, and maybe there's been things that we've could have done better. Looking for just feedback and input from you on contact center initiatives.
So there was this kid that was blowing smoke in Bastian.
Yeah, that guy. Yeah. So like feedback on like the relationship we had before, or just like in general, like
just in general, like what things you find like really important in like an outbound initiative and contact center relationship.
Yeah. So I think the biggest question that when you're working with a outbound call center operation is the compliance thing. Right. It's like having that buttoned up, doing your due diligence. Like, what's the scripting? How are you going to enforce scripting? How are you going to enforce DNC? The do not call request, like how is that going to be pushed up back to the brand? What's the call cadence look like, right? Because I think, for most companies, regardless of like what they do or what they service, calling leads is the highest liability generating activity they do. It's not ripping someone's roof off. It's not, refinancing or something. It's calling leads, right? And so working with a partner that you really, really trust, that has compliance, has training, has monitoring, reports on that. And it's like a topic of focus that they bring up, which is something that I really love with you guys. Like, hey, this is how we lock everything down, right? This is how we lock down access for users. This is how we train people. Here's how we populate scripts. Here's our call auditing. This is what we do with training, et cetera. Like all of those were just like check marks. Like, okay, cool. Check the box. Great, great. Oh, cool. And some of the things that you guys showed, like, during that process of like us initial conversations and our initial agreements, I stole. I'm like, oh, that's a great idea. Let's do it in our call center, right? Like, so, I think just like having that trust on the compliance side is absolutely important. And then, making sure that you launch already understanding like what are the expectations of the campaign over what period of time, right? It's like, or here's how we measure success, right? It's like, everyone has, things happen, right? Like I'm in the Army Reserves, there's an acronym we use called PACE, primary, alternative, contingency, emergency, right? It's like, plan A, plan B, plan C, plan D, right? It's like, hey, here's what we expect happening from a reporting standpoint, from a performance standpoint. If that doesn't happen, we're going to make decisions at this point and, either this call volume or this amount of spend or this time period. And if things go great or things don't go great, then, here's our decision matrix. Like we're going to do this, right? And then based on that, then we'll go to plan C, right? And then we'll go to plan D or whatever that is, right? So it's like understanding what those controls are before you launch it, right, is really important. Because that's the worst thing is like, hey, we launched a product or launch a program with the call center, and then you get push leads, and then maybe something happens with the data, like maybe leads aren't being pushed, or maybe we hit an IVR that we weren't expecting, or something's wrong. And then what happens is you're spending money on leads that aren't getting called. There's lost revenue potential. Like
you're pointing your finger here, we're pointing our finger there.
Yeah, it's just crazy, right? It's like
the systems.
You're just like trying to figure out what's happening, and over the course of time, what's happening is, specifically home service companies, like what's happening for them is their sales reps aren't busy, their installers aren't busy, and they're missing quota with their manufacturers and distributors.
And someone else is getting the business.
Right. Yeah. And someone else is getting the business, right? So there's all these issues that come up. So it's like, how do we navigate and plan for like when things do go wrong, right?
Yeah.
When things do go wrong, here's option A, B, C, D. And having all those reporting like already built and all those mechanisms already built are super important. So, if you're a home service company, listening to this, like thinking about leveraging a call center, I would say like absolutely 100%. I think the one thing that I really enjoyed watching with you guys and Squeeze is we did a head-to-head with our call center, our internal call center. It's like, okay, who can do better, right? Like, and we had to break down the economics, like, because we never looked at the economics that way either on our own call center. Like, what is the cost to call?
Yeah.
Right. What's our cost per labor, or for our tech stack, for our team, all that stuff to call a lead, to set a lead, et cetera. Like, we didn't have those metrics, but like, well, if we're going to do head-to-head, we need to have that, right? So we created that metric, we tracked it, and we did a head-to-head, and we're like, I don't know what those Squeeze guys are doing, but they're killing it. They're killing it.
It's like the meme where they're like leaning forward on the edge of their chair with the game controller.
Yeah,
it's like head to head.
It's like, what are they doing? What are they doing? And then we like listen to call records. I mean, that's all. It's the nuances with managing a call center, right? Which you guys are absolutely experts in. So that was really fun and interesting to do. But I would definitely recommend testing, right?
Yeah.
Like test a bunch of leads and over a certain period of time and see what happens, and iterate, right? Learn and iterate. So.
Appreciate that.
We have we've been iterating right now, and actually yesterday we were sort of like in our meeting. Maybe it was our sales meeting Monday. We get together and just talk about our pipeline and stuff every Monday. And this idea came up, and I was like, oh, that's actually really, really, really cool. to be able to build a tool where like we could have this on our website, like you go to our website.
We got to put this behind a paywall. We got to put this behind a paywall.
Yeah. I mean, like,
I was pretty excited about this one.
I know there's like 4 people that listen to our podcast, so
right.
well, I think we'll be safe here.
And 3 of them work for Squeeze. And the other one's Bastian's wife.
Yeah.
But basically have like a box on our within our site where you could put in like your offer URL, and then basically our AI, we could do this for AI. We have the pieces to do this, but go to that landing page, fill out a form. It goes to one of our AI, inbounds. The call comes into one of our AI inbound agents, and we test and report back on speed to lead and like a bunch of information on like what's happening with the call center agents that are calling your leads.
Yeah.
So that we can show like, hey, here's a report right now on what's happening on this landing page. Is just like provide data back and reporting and more of like a real time kind of.
Yeah.
I do that all the time with our partners and potential partners, because in a sales pitch, it gives me just a lot more data that I can like lean into and kind of push on. I did it yesterday with one of our partners. I got called like 8 times in one day. And a voicemail was left on my phone, and the guy.
Okay, this is funny. This is really funny. So this is a company that shall remain nameless, but they're telling
To
us
protect the guilty.
They're telling us that we should be getting all the data. And,
As of today?
that we should be getting all the data. And basically we ran a test on their offer the other day, and like it got like 8.
I got 8 calls, and I got a voicemail left on my phone that just kept going, because they didn't realize that it was running on voicemail.
Oh, interesting.
And it was just talking on my voicemail.
Unprofessional agents and stuff like that.
And I'm like, and so I came back after doing this test. I'm like, guys, I think we're going to be okay. Like, we're going to be able to outperform. There's going to be a lot of meat on the bone. And then today we get on a call, and they're like, hey, we're just going to send you everything day 1. That's great.
Yeah. We do that on the lead side.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, when like something's not working the way we expect, or just like to gut check a partner, like we'll put fake leads in, and we'll just test like, okay, what's the strategy? Like how many dials, all that stuff. So
there's nothing like just a live test to see what's really going on. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You'd be shocked at what you find too.
Yeah.
We should probably wrap this up. We've been going almost an hour.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
This is just like gone quick.
Time flies when
Good
you're having fun.
conversation.
That's right.
Great to connect with you, Bastian. Great to have you here. A lot of discussion that we've had. And you've been watching the Juice Consumer Direct podcast. Thanks so much for watching. Make sure you give us a like and subscribe.
Yeah, if you got questions, comments, send them over. We'll get to them.